So I work for JBS, as you said. I oversee the animal welfare programs for the beef plant, pork plant, and the lamb plant. So that involves really anything that has to do with a live animal, from unloading all the way through to when they are slaughtered. Also, it's starting to reach back a lot more to the supply side. So I work with our other business units, the Five Rivers feedlots, some of the pork producers. So it really is anything that it could be. Whatever welfare is, that's what I do. So one thing that we are doing that I think is great. Our auditing program is big. It's a big focus for us, and we do a lot of different things. We have had cameras in our plants in the animal handling areas for about 2 years now. Primarily, we use that as a training tool. It's really helpful to show an employee what he's doing so that he can actually correct it rather than just telling him. So training is the primary purpose, but we do use it for auditing too. So we work with a company called Aerosite. They're a third-party remote video auditor. They provide us daily results on our animal handling. In addition to that, we go out and do the traditional live audits. We also go and sit on the not on the cameras. We go and sit in the camera room and we view the cameras and we do an audit on the camera. So we have a lot of results that I look at and I try to put together and identify areas that the plants could improve on, or ones that they're doing really well on and that we can share with the other plants.
This is going on continuously, really, every day of the week in the plants, at least at some level.
Yep, we do audits. Every day that we're running, we do audits. Aerosite does them as well, every day. So some plants have 2 shifts. We do them across all shifts. And some of the audits we do even more than once per shift. So there's a lot of numbers and a lot of data, which as a scientist, I like that. And my job is to find, okay, so how can we take all these numbers and have a practical application for in-plant?
And it seems that your policies and the standards that the JBS is developing for animal welfare first have to conform with the government standards and the industry guidelines, but it looks like you're really going well beyond that.
Yes, so there are government regulations that we adhere to, and there are industry standards primarily from the American Meat Institute Animal Care and Handling Guidelines. So there are certain levels, and those usually apply to third-party audits of what we need to hit for the various components. We do hold our plants at a tighter level, so if industry requires this, we require this, and we push the plants to get there, and they're held accountable for it. So in their quarterly, period, weekly performance, we look at those numbers, and we have an animal welfare index. So we hold them accountable.
How do you see this? Some of this eventually filtering back to the producer end and the veterinarians who work with the feed yards and work with the cow-calf producers, and how some of those standards can potentially work their way back through the chain and verify the cattle that come into the plants.
So I think it's definitely moving that way. A lot of feedlots do third-party audits already, or at least they use some sort of auditing tool to verify their programs. Mm-hmm. I talk to our Five Rivers veterinarian and nutritionist, so we do have that line of communication. I think probably to your point, the packing industry could do a better job reaching out to the veterinarians, because they're the ones on the ground in the feedlots. And I already have 14 plants to go to, so going to all the feedlots is hard. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a network that could definitely be strengthened.
I understand you have a program on the pork side where you are working back to kind of certify some of the production chains.
So we've started working with a company to look at doing farm reviews for the pork suppliers, and so it focused on animal welfare. And we haven't been doing it for very long. It's not a formal procedure yet, but we are starting to look back and saying, okay, we don't own these pigs, but they're part of our supply, and the consumer expects that we know how those animals were raised.